So there's this whole set of images going around comparing Hornet's moveset to that of Grimm from the Grimm Troop DLC expansion. People are wondering if Grimm and Hornet are the same species, and if we might see some part of the Grimm Troop in Silksong. And I've seen a ton of people instantly put that theory down. The biggest counter-argument they have is that the troop only visits dead kingdoms and Farloom is still alive, so it's not possible to see anything Grimm-related. Well, that's not actually the case. Yes, it's true that the troop visits old dead kingdoms to perform the ritual, but they can't just travel there. They need to be summoned. Now, we don't know for sure how the ecology works, but I doubt that the lantern needed to summon just spawns when a kingdom is pronounced dead. Doesn't it make sense that the troop would need to send out scouts and servants to discover kingdoms and then set up the summoning in the ruins?
Sego nala.
It's not that far-fetched to think that these scouts would be lurking in the shadows of still thriving cities just watching and waiting it out. To summon the Grimm troop, you need to activate a torch hidden away in the Howling Cliffs. But to find the torch, you have to dreamnail a corpse of a bug dressed in the outfit of the troop. So this just lends further cadence to the theory of scouts. Perhaps the bug has to die to alert Grimm that the kingdom is ready. One thing I don't quite understand is that we have to dreamnail the corpse to get the lantern to spawn. So is this how it works in every place the troop visits? I thought the dreamnail was pretty exclusive to Hollow Nest and tied with the Dreamers and the Radiants, but since dream diving was going to play a bigger part in the original concept for Hollow Knight, maybe it's more common than we think and happens in other kingdoms. Perhaps in Farloom you have to use song to dream dive? We haven't really seen anything having to do with dreams in Silksong yet, so your guess is as good as mine. But the fact is, igniting the torch summons the troop from the Nightmare Realm, which is a dream-like plane of existence. So you must have to have some way of accessing dreams to summon them. Either way, nothing rules out seeing some form of the troop in Silksong. Be it just a cameo like one of these bugs just alive and hiding, or we get to the real meat of this whole deal and talk about this whole species thing. So what are the actual similarities between the two? Well, it mostly consists of some different types of attack animations that they share, the cocoon thingy, as well as this spider-like movement animation. Let's ignore the fact that it could just be reused animations for this part. Hornet is the child of Hera and the Pale King. This is one of the few things in Hollow Knight that we know for sure. She is the Knight's sibling, and she grew up in Deep Nest. Most of her early life was spent wandering the kingdom and protecting it, like when she faced off against Quill in the Howling Cliffs. Grimm is the master of the troop and is secretly known as the Nightmare King. Grimm is basically immortal. In fact, the entire Nightmare ritual is specifically designed to keep him alive. You take the Grimm child, help it feed off of Nightmare Flame, which is produced in dead kingdoms, and then you sacrifice it so that Grimm can be reborn. It's all a cycle, guys. Hornet and Grimm basically share nothing in common lore-wise, and we never learn what type of bug that Grimm is. The Pale King comes from a worm, but it's safe to say that Hornet much more resembles her mother Hera, displaying beast-like characteristics. While it's not 100% solid, I would say that beast basically means spider-like, as Deep Nest is basically Spider Town and Hera looks like a thick old Black Widow or something. If you didn't realize, Hornet has many limbs, and is quite spider-like. I mean, come on, a bug that swings and weaves with silk? Team Cherry isn't exactly hiding their cards on that one. So the real question is, did Team Cherry purposely make these animations similar, or is it just reusing animations because of the size of the game? Look, Team Cherry is all about obsessing over details and taking as much time as they possibly can to finish a game. So reusing animations doesn't seem that likely, at least for these guys. They know how important the lore has become, and making Grimm and Hornet similar would be caught by the community. I'm not ruling out reusing animation, it just doesn't seem like it's in their MO. So, if it's intentional, what are the actual implications? Well, nothing really. If Hornet and Grimm are the same species, it doesn't mean at all that they are related. There is no way a
Hornet, I am your father
moment happens. It just would not make sense given what we know about the Pale King and Hera. Really, this would all basically just be a cool Easter egg for lore enthusiasts who can finally confirm what type of bug Grimm is. Farloom has been described as being alive, and most fans are just taking that for granted. But you can't forget, Farloom isn't exactly normal. It's haunted. The denizens don't seem right, and everything has threads. It's described as a land haunted by both Silk and Song. Silk is heavily tied with the Weavers, whom Hornet is also associated with. The Weavers are spiders. Hornet is a spider. Grimm is most likely a spider. Look, this theory is highly unlikely, and I frankly don't know if I would even like it to actually happen, but let's just have some fun with it. As pointed out in the past, we see what looks like a replica of a giant cocoon at different parts of Farloom. and it looks like it might be what's at the top of the citadel. We see threads that almost control the denizens of the land. So what if the controller is inside this cocoon? So whatever is in there and controlling these threads is probably up to no good, and is at odds with the Weavers in Farloom. We can infer this because the Weavers help Hornet on her journey and give her access to powers and abilities. Grimm refers to the Nightmare Ritual as a performance, or dance, and the fight itself mechanically feels just like that. What better way to pull off a performance perfectly than for one entity to have control over every single part of it? Hence the haunting with threads. The troupe also has almost a musical identity of its own, with the carnival squams and Brum on their accordion bug, for example. But I don't think that's where the song part factors in. Either way, basically what I'm trying to say is, what if whatever's in the cocoon is connected to the troupe in some way? Silksong has been called a sequel many times, and Team Cherry said it in the past that they want to make every ending in Hollow Knight be canon. This is obviously impossible in a sequel type setting, since Hornet is sealed away in one of Hollow Knight's endings, which would make it impossible for her to travel to Farloom. But the Grimm troupe has two endings. Either you help complete the ritual by defeating Grimm, or you help Broom banish the troupe. Banishing isn't the end of the troupe though, as we can see in Broom's dialogue. It's just a way to save Hallownest from the ritual and to banish Grimm from this particular kingdom. So, in either of these endings, the Grimm troupe lives on, which makes it possible for them to show up in Silksong if it's a sequel. Do I think it's Grimm in the cocoon? Realistically, of course not, but it's fun to think about, and if I really stretch the lore and what we know, I can make the theory fit. Kinda. At the end of the day though, I think Hornet and Grimm having similarities is intentional, but all it really does is give us an idea of what type of bug Grimm is. Just a random side note, but in some old Hollow Knight trailer footage, we catch a glimpse of a cancelled huge spider creature that might have been a boss or just an NPC. Deepness doesn't have a main boss, so maybe that's where we would have originally fought this beast. Look, giant cocoon made of silk seems like a pretty neat place for a big ass spider fight. The Weavers had to come from somewhere, so maybe we find Mommy Weaver in the cocoon, and familial issues occur.
Shaw!
But then again, with Team Cherry, nothing is generally what it seems, so who knows what's inside that thing, or if there even is a giant cocoon at all. Maybe it's all just propaganda being spread by these guys. They look sus. What do you guys think? Did Team Cherry just randomly decide to start reusing animations, or is there some kind of intent behind the similarities? If it's just a copy and paste case, does that really matter to you? That's pretty much all I got for this one, but don't worry, there is more Silksong content planned in the near future. And also stay tuned for my in-depth analysis of what a complete show the fan film Kenobi series on Disney Plus is.